dramatically increase defense medical research. I think we owe it to the men and women in uniform. Your budget cuts two-thirds of that amount for defense health research. How can that be consistent with our mutual goal of making the military life a safer life for our men and women in uniform?
Well, Senator, I would take issue with your characterization that all two-thirds of that, whatever was reduced, is focused on the issues that you just spoke about, because those are issues that, as a secretary who's very close to these issues and knows people close to these issues, my team knows that's exactly the type of research that we would fund. But we did find lots of other research inside the Defense Department to the tens and millions, and in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars that was a boondoggle for the American people.
Why?
And
Why do you say,
proud to get
give me an
rid of it.
example of a boondoggle in medical research in
There are
defense health.
I mean, we're talking about some stuff I shouldn't say in public. You know, marbles in the rear ends of cats, tens of millions of dollars, things that don't have
like the
a connection to what you're talking about.
So I respect the 350-year-old Social Security check?
This may look like a tense exchange over numbers in a defense budget, but it's actually a deeper reckoning about what America owes the people it sends into danger. What's really being tested here is whether supporting the troops is just a slogan or a measurable commitment to their long-term health and dignity. This raises broader questions about accountability, responsibility, and whether fiscal arguments are being used to justify walking away from the consequences of war. The stakes go far beyond two individuals in a hearing room. They touch the credibility of U.S. leadership, the trust of military families, and the nation's moral obligation to those who serve. In this video, we'll break down how this hearing exposes a contradiction between cost-cutting politics and the real human cost borne by service members, and why it matters for the future of American defense policy.
My turn.
I can take a second.
We're just going to have to get the gentleman from Kansas a clock.
I thought I had 4 minutes and 55 seconds left.
Mr. Secretary, I was surprised to learn that medical research has discovered the probability that men and women who serve our nation develop certain cancers more prevalent among them than the general population. Are you aware of this?
That men and women in uniform may develop certain different cancers than civilians?
More frequent and the like?
I'm not familiar with the particular study that you're referring to, but I'd be interested to see it.
Also, I learned at the same time that brain injuries are particularly prevalent among some members of our military. And understanding the violence of that experience, it's not a surprise. But it does have long-term impact. Were you aware of that?
Yes, sir.
This moment matters because it reframes military service beyond medals, speeches, and ceremonies. It forces the conversation toward the invisible cost, the health consequences that follow people home. When the government acknowledges these realities, responsibility follows. And once you admit the risks are real, cutting the very research that could protect lives becomes not just a budget decision, but a moral one.
Do you know why?
Well, decades of deployments to places where explosions, large and small, happen on the regular basis, and certain people are right next to small explosions on a regular basis or big explosions in one incident, or they have a duty MOS, like you're an artilleryman, where the constant thud of that alters the physical aspect of your brain in ways that we don't fully understand, but we know are caused by that service. So we're very aware of that.
Do you feel a special responsibility as Secretary of Defense representing these services and the men and women who are part of them to make sure that we get as quickly as we can to the bottom of this and figure out what we can do, if anything, to reduce the likelihood of additional cancers or brain injuries?
Senator, I served with a lot of men who were affected in a lot of ways by those types of symptoms, including symptoms that led to the taking of their own life. Yes. This is a deadly serious issue. We are committed to getting to the bottom of who it affects and why, and making sure we do right by it.
Here, we see a critical admission. The damage is real, widespread, and devastating. Acknowledgement removes any room for denial. Once leadership recognizes the severity, the responsibility shifts to action. That's where accountability comes in. Because recognizing the problem while pursuing cuts to solutions creates a contradiction that can't be ignored.
So let me tell you what I've done about it. As chairman of this subcommittee at one point in time, we have dramatically increased the medical research to protect the men and women in uniform. As we learn these things, we want to get to the bottom of it as quickly as possible. It is enough for me that they risk their lives for our country. We shouldn't make it a more dangerous situation, and we ought to understand what's going on in their minds and their bodies when they serve. And as a result of that, we have dramatically increased defense medical research. I think we owe it to the men and women in uniform. Your budget cuts two-thirds of that amount for defense health research. How can that be consistent with our mutual goal of making the military life a safer life for our men and women in uniform?
Well, Senator, I would take issue with your characterization that all two-thirds of that, whatever was reduced, is focused on the issues that you just spoke about, because those are issues that, as a secretary who's very close to these issues and knows people close to these issues, my team knows that's exactly the type of research that we would fund. But
This is the collision point between stated values and policy reality. You cannot champion troop welfare while simultaneously defunding the tools that protect it. This isn't just about spreadsheets. It's about whether military families can trust the institutions that send their loved ones into danger. If support evaporates after the uniform comes off, then something fundamental is broken.
we did find lots of other research inside the Defense Department to the tens and millions, and in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars that was a boondoggle for the American people.
Why?
And
Why do you
we were
say,
proud to get
give me
rid
an
of it.
example of a boondoggle in medical research in
There are
defense health.
I mean, we're talking about some stuff I shouldn't say in public. You know, marbles in the rear ends of cats, tens of millions of dollars, things that don't
Is this
have
like the
a
300
connection
300
to
is this-
what
is
you're
like-
talking about.
Is
So
this
I
like the
respect
350-year-old Social Security check that the president told us?
Senator, I respect
I would-
completely the issue that you're speaking with, and this department couldn't be more sympathetic to that and
Well,
ensure that it's
it's-
funded. But the Defense Department has been a place where organizations, entities, and companies know they can get money almost unchecked to
That's
whether or
not
not
true.
it actually applies to things that happen.
This moment forces a bigger question. When agencies cut, what do they choose to value? Calling certain research waste shapes priorities, and those priorities reveal what leadership believes truly matters. If battlefield consequences are real, then research isn't optional, it's responsibility. Reducing it risks sending a message that long-term health is negotiable, even when lives depend on it.
On the battlefield,
That's just not
that's
even
what
close.
we worked very hard to find in ways that other secretaries have not.
Let me tell you,
This
that's
committee
a-
and others talk about waste, fraud, and abuse all the time. We have actually gone after waste, fraud, and abuse because
Let me-
every
let
dollar
me
that's
just tell you that
spent is a
eliminating-
dollar we can pour into the war fight.
Eliminating two-thirds of the money for defense health research, put that next to the decision to cut NIH medical research by 40%. Does that make America great again for these military families? I don't think so. $45 million for a parade, for God's sake. Money should be put in defense medical research instead of wasted on some pomp and circumstance for the president. This is not consistent with what the men and women in uniform deserve.
Senator Hoeven, then Senator Schatz, Senator Bozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for your.
This hearing isn't just about a budget line, it's about trust, duty, and the meaning of national responsibility. If America asks people to serve, sacrifice, and endure lifelong consequences, then the nation must meet them with unwavering support, not shrinking commitments. At stake is institutional credibility, the well-being of military families, and the integrity of the promise made to every service member. The message is simple. Real support requires real investment, and leadership must be held accountable when words don't match actions. Support those who risk everything and demand policies that prove it. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.